inner crisis. At the same time, there is a tension between faith and reason. Faith is often seen as irrational or inferior to scientific reasoning. Furthermore, many people conform to social expectations without truly understanding themselves. Kierkegaard calls this the ground where individuality is lost. In this situation, the question becomes more urgent. How can a person live authentically? It is within this modern period, that modern crisis, that Soren Kierkegaard's philosophy becomes profoundly relevant. This study is guided by the main question: how does Kierkegaard's concept of the leap of faith resolve the problem of despair and lead to authentic existence? In order to answer this main question, the researcher proposed three questions. First, how does Kierkegaard's understanding of authentic existence and despair reveal the necessity of the leap of faith? Second, how does Kierkegaard contrast the leap of faith with rational and ethical approach to existence? Third, what role does the leap of faith play in achieving meaning, freedom, and authenticity in individuals' life? The thesis statement: for Kierkegaard, authentic existence is possible only through the leap of faith, which resolves the despair of inauthentic life and transcends the limits of reason and ethics. This study is significant in several ways. First, existentially, it speaks to individuals who struggle with despair, anxiety, and meaninglessness. Second, philosophically, it contributes to the field of existentialism by clarifying Kierkegaard's pathway toward authenticity. And third, religiously, it deepens the understanding of personal faith beyond merely institutional conformity. And of course, for the researcher, this study helps him to deepen his faith and see the importance of being authentic individual. This study is an expository philosophical study. It uses close textual analysis of primary works such as Fear and Trembling, Either or, and other major work of Kierkegaard. Critical engagement with secondary sources. At the same time, throughout this study, the researcher makes use of the generative AI tools such as Qbot, Grammarly, Notebook LM, and other apps with the aim of checking and polishing grammar, syntax, and summaries. This is mostly used in the review of related literature. The conceptual framework. So this is the conceptual framework of this study with the aim of Kierkegaard's leap of faith towards authentic existence. First, it will discuss the problem of inauthentic existence, despair, and how it reveals the need for the leap of faith. And it will be in the chapter 2. Chapter 3 will be on the leap of faith as beyond reason and ethics. Chapter 4, forming the core study of this thesis, the leap of faith as path toward authentic existence, and authentic existence as the aim of this study. Chapter 2, despair in authentic existence and the need for the leap of faith. Chapter 2 demonstrates despair and inauthentic existence in the aesthetic and ethical stages, and it reveals the reason why the leap of faith becomes necessary. Kierkegaard is known as the father of existentialism. For Kierkegaard, philosophy must answer this question: how should I exist? And the first stage of life in Kierkegaard's existential framework is the aesthetic stage. This stage is characterized by the pursuit of pleasure, immediate satisfaction, avoidance of commitment, and a fragmented sense of identity. The aesthetic individual lives primarily for enjoyment and sensory experience, seeking novelty and stimulation while evading long-term responsibility. Life at this stage is governed by impulse and mood rather than a stable commitments and enduring responsibilities. Although such a life may appear attractive and free to some individuals, It ultimately results in boredom, restlessness, and inner emptiness. Because the aesthetic person never truly chooses himself in a decisive way, he fails to achieve a coherent selfhood. And consequently, beneath the surface of pleasure lies despair, a despair rooted in the instability and superficiality of aesthetic existence. The second stage in Kierkegaard's account of human existence is the ethical stage. Unlike aesthetic individual, the ethical person recognizes the importance of responsibility, commitment, and moral obligation. At this stage, individual consciously chooses himself through adherence to universal moral laws and social duties. Life is no longer governed by impulse, but by deliberate decision and accountability. The ethical stage introduces stability and continuity as individual commits to enduring relationships, work, and moral principles. However, despite its superiority over aesthetic mode of life, the ethical stage remains insufficient. It cannot ultimately resolve the deeper problem of human despair. The ethical individual experiences anxiety before freedom and often confronts guilt that cannot fully erase through moral effort alone. Moreover, the ethical life remains within a sphere of universal norms and rational structures, which cannot address the individual's absolute relation to the divine. Thus, although the ethical stage represents progress, it still leaves the self in a condition of unresolved tension. Both the aesthetic and ethical stages ultimately reveal the structural presence of despair in human existence. The aesthetic fails because it lacks a commitment and enduring identity, while ethical stage fails because it confines the individual within universal moral categories that cannot fully reconcile the self with its deepest dimension. Despair, therefore, is not merely an emotional sadness, but a misrelation within the self, a failure to ground the self, oneself properly. This existential condition reveals the necessity for a qualitative transition. The movement beyond despair cannot occur gradually or through rational refinement. Rather, it requires a decisive leap into a higher mode of existence. This necessity leads directly to the discussion of the leap of faith in the next chapter. Chapter 3 critically is the leap of faith beyond reason and ethics. This chapter critically examines how the leap of faith transcends rational and ethical standards, showing how faith has its own reason. Faith and reason. The relationship between faith and reason has been a long subject in philosophical debate. Faith is often criticized as irrational or opposed to intellectual inquiry. However, Kierkegaard does not advocate the rejection of reason. Rather, he critiques the assumption that reason can provide a complete and exhaustive account of existence. In his opposition to systematic philosophy, especially the speculative system of Hegel, Kierkegaard insists that existential truth cannot reduce to abstract universality. Faith is not irrational, but supra-rational. It transcends the limits of objective reasoning without contradicting it. Faith addresses dimensions of existence that cannot be captured by logical demonstration alone. One of the best examples of the leap of faith in Kierkegaard's work, Fear and Trembling, Kierkegaard illustrates the paradoxical nature of faith through the figure of Abraham. In Fear and Trembling, one of his major works, Abraham receives the divine command to sacrifice his son Isaac, an act appears morally reprehensible and rationally incomprehensible. From the standing point of universal ethics, such an act constitutes murder. From the standing point of reason, it is absurd. Yet Abraham obeys in faith. And Kierkegaard describes this as the theological suspension of ethical, meaning that Abraham temporarily suspends universal moral norms for the sake of higher and divine purpose. In doing so, Abraham becomes the knight of faith, an individual who stands in absolute relation to the absolute. The leap of faith beyond reason, truth as subjectivity. This is one of the most assertion misunderstood by many. For Kierkegaard, truth is subjectivity means that the highest truths, especially religious truths, are not merely matters of objective correctness, but of a personal appropriation. Truth becomes authentic when it is inwardly embraced with passion and commitment. It is not enough to know doctrines intellectually, but one must exist in them. Thus, truth concerns how individuals relate himself to what he believes. Kierkegaard also critiqued Hegel for making philosophy a speculative system. Kierkegaard does not subscribe to Hegel's system, but a philosophy that focuses on existing individual, subjective, non-rational, concentrates on passion and one's personal relationship with God as the way to find one's true self and authentic existence. The theological suspension of ethical, Abraham's faith religious ethics over the universal ethics of the community. The transcendence of ethics in the leap of faith does not imply morally relativism or the rejection of ethical responsibility. Rather, it signifies that religious stage introduces a higher order of existence in which individual stands directly before the absolute. Ethics remains valid within its sphere, but it is no longer the ultimate category. Individuals' absolute relation to the absolute surpasses universal moral structures. This radical reorientation defines the religious stage and reveals the depth of Kierkegaard's existential vision. The knight of faith versus the tragic hero. The tragic hero in the figure of Jephthah, Brutus, and Agamemnon sacrifice the particular for the universal and can be understood and justified within ethical norms. His suffering is publicly intelligible and morally admirable. In contrast, the knight of faith in the figure of Abraham stands in the absolute relation to the absolute and may suspend the ethical for the higher divine purpose. Unlike the tragic hero, he cannot explain how himself to others. His justification is inward, grounded solely in faith. Chapter 4, forming the core study of this study, the leap of faith toward authentic existence. This chapter examines how, making the leap of faith, individuals are brought to the highest stage of existence according to Kierkegaard, the religious stage, in which they attain authentic existence. The leap of faith and the transition to religious stage. The leap of faith as passionate inwardness. The leap of faith for Kierkegaard is an act of passionate inwardness, whereby individuals commit himself wholly to God despite of objective uncertainties. It is not detached intellectual conclusions, but a decisive existential choice made in risk and trust. This inward passion transforms belief into lived reality. Through the leap, the individual embraces the paradox and becomes personally, authentically related to the absolute. Kierkegaard understands the self as a dynamic relation relates itself to itself, and ultimately to the power that established it, namely God. The self is not static substance, but a synthesis of opposites, such as finitude and infinitude, necessity and possibility. When this relation is improperly grounded, despair arises. Authentic selfhood emerges only when the individual consciously rests in transparent dependence upon God. The religious stage, an authentic relation to God, relating the self authentically to God. The leap culminates in the religious stage, where individuals become fully conscious of himself as a self before the absolute. Kierkegaard defines the authentic self as relation that relates itself to itself and ultimately to the power that establishes it. Authentic selfhood Authentic selfhood is achieved only when this relation is properly grounded in God. At this stage, existence is marked by humility, dependence, and transparency before the divine. The individual no longer seeks fulfillment through pleasure or moral self sufficiency, but rests faithful reliance upon God. In this grounding, despair is overcome and the self is correctly oriented toward its source. The religious stage, the integration of the first two stages, the aesthetic and ethical. The religious stage integrates and transforms the aesthetic and individual dimensions of existence by grounding them in an absolute relation to God. It does not abolish pleasure or moral responsibility, but it reorients them toward a higher purpose. The individual retains ethical commitment and concrete existence that lifts them before God. In this integration, the self achieves unity and despair is overcome through faithful dependence on the absolute. Authentic existence is seen as the aim of human existence. In Kierkegaard philosophy, it relies only through the religious commitment. Authenticity entails personal responsibility and existential courage, steadfast in faith in the face of uncertainty. It requires the individual to embrace freedom and risk rather than hide within a social conformity or rational abstraction. The authentic self rests transparently in God, reconciled with itself and liberated from despair. Pleasure and morality alone cannot secure such reconciliation. Only through the life that establishes the individual and stable, meaningful relation to the absolute. With this, we come to the chapter 5, the conclusion. Summary, chapter 1, as I said a while ago in the outline of the study, forming the structure of the study. Chapter 2, elaboration of despair in the first two stages. Chapter 3, analyzing the leap of faith, transcends reason and ethics. Chapter 4, the leap of faith toward authentic existence. And this is chapter 5. So let me now proceed to the philosophical insights. First, stages of existence. Upon analyzing the stages of existence in Kierkegaard's philosophy, the researcher realizes that sometimes individuals are not aware of the stage of life that they are in. So they just amend with whatever it is at the moment, not even thinking or concerning of higher values that they may have. Thus, many of them are living in the lowest stage of existence, the aesthetic stage, without knowing it, according to Kierkegaard. Second, authentic existence. Through endeavoring to conduct this study, the researcher understands the importance of being authentic individuals. To be authentic is one of the major tasks that need to be done in today's world, wherein people tend to follow the crowd without even thinking why they should do so. And the personal relationship with God, by conducting this study, the researcher is reminded of being connected and united in the love of God by deepening his personal relationship with Him. In the context of his formation house, the researcher has to follow a prescribed schedule of prayer and communal worship activities. And sometimes, therefore, he finds it difficult to deepen his personal prayer life. Therefore, this study reminds him of fostering a personal relationship, deepen his intimate relationship with God, in which he can sustain and grow his faith and become authentic individual. Last, the limitation of reason. By studying this thesis, the researcher is enlightened that sometimes he has to go beyond his reason to deepen faith values that he believes. Furthermore, it does not mean that faith is supreme over reason, but it shows that each of these has its own limitations and strengths. and the limitation of reasons sustain for what individuals cannot see or recognize. Some recommendations for further research. First, interrelated concepts in Kierkegaard's existential framework. The researcher recommends the succeeding writers can explore deeper on existential ideas that align with his Kierkegaard's thoughts. The later researcher can dig deeper other concepts such as the notion of authentic love, anxiety, ethics, and the self, which can be found in some of his major works, such as Either or, Sickness, The Sickness Unto Death, the concept of anxiety, works of love, and philosophical fragments, among others. Second, a comparative analysis of Kierkegaard's philosophy with other thinkers on subjectivity, absurdity, and authenticity. The researcher highlight recommends other researchers to deepen their understanding by looking at how the later existentialists built their philosophy on the foundation that Kierkegaard paved. Study on other existentialist ideas like Albert Camus, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Martin Buber, and many others may help researchers realize the contribution of Kierkegaard's philosophy in the development of existentialism. Last, Kierkegaard stages of life as the roadmap in finding himself. Kierkegaard finds it meaningful and the researcher finds it meaningful and applicable to apply the notion of stages of life according to Kierkegaard in the reality of life. The future researchers can use the notion of stages of life in connection to the life of people nowadays, especially the young people. Many of them are spending their life, energy, and even their whole lifestyle in satisfying their pleasure and losing the awareness of attaining higher stage of existence and the meaningful life. With this, the researcher would like to end his presentation with a quote from Kierkegaard himself. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you, the panel members and everyone for listening.
All right. All right. So thank you very much, Brother Nguyen Min. So before we proceed to the question and answer, I forgot to acknowledge the ever presence of our Dean of Studies,
Yes.
Father Lito Angkla,
Morning, Father.
who is with us here on site, and then of course the parents of Brother Nguyen,
Yes, thank you, sir.
and our panel member and advisor. Okay, so we now proceed to the question and answer. Uh, so we have Professor Ringer, yeah, Blaze Ringer.
Good morning, Dr. Blaze.
Good morning, brother. Good morning, dearest panel members, and also to the Dean of Studies, Father Lito. Um, First of all, congratulations to you and to your advisor, Sir Kim, um, for reaching this stage, because it's not always easy for a student of philosophy in the baccalaureate level to at least work on his research. Okay, so congratulations. I know the struggles of working on research. So I have just a few questions and
Yes.
also some clarifications. Just to note, these questions and clarifications are for the sake of improving the research work and not really to make you feel bad. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
as early as now, I am just trying to say it to you. Uh, so, uh, in your thesis statement, particularly on page number 5, if we have the same copy,
Yes,
at
sir.
least the e copy, it says it's page 5.
Yes.
The thesis statement reads: For Kierkegaard, authentic existence is possible only through the leap of faith, which resolves the despair of inauthentic life and transcends the limits of reason and ethics. Okay, so that's the thesis statement, right?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
um, on pages 77 to 79, at least to lead you where I am coming from, um, you explicitly argue that the three stages of life are not three separate circles, but concentric circles, in which the religious stage integrates rather than replaces the aesthetic and ethical. That's the point of your presentation, right? Earlier, uh,
Yes, yes,
that the ethical stage, the aesthetic stage, and the ethical stage will later on be dissolved because they are just pathways towards the religious life, right? So, if authentic existence is achievable only through the leap of faith, which you were arguing earlier, how does the thesis account for the partial authenticity it attributes to the ethical stage on pages 34 to 35? Okay. Now, to clarify, does the thesis maintain that the ethical stage produces a degree of authentic existence, or does it hold that no existence whatsoever is possible prior to the leap of faith? So that's the only question that you should answer, at least for this part.
thank you, sir, for your critical question. To answer this question, sir, yes, the thesis statement is answering that for Kierkegaard, authentic existence is possible only through the leap of faith, and in which the highest stage of existence, which is the religious stage. However, in the later part, I explained that the the three stages of existence are not separate to each other. The
Yeah.
concept of selfhood is the center, like the in the main circle, and then the three small circles around. And then, however, for Kierkegaard, to achieve authentic existence means to take the leap, the true, in strictly speaking, in Kierkegaardian viewpoint, that because he is a theistic existentialist, so his view is more on Christian values. Strictly speaking, that in Kierkegaardian viewpoints, it is only in the religious stage of existence that individuals are able to achieve true authentic existence. However, we have to be concerned that, so how about the secular individuals? They not able to attain the authentic existence? No. In this sense, it means that the individuals are having the kind of concern to what authentic existence, but the problem here is the priority in each stage. In the aesthetic stage, the priority is more on pleasure, enjoyment, and satisfaction. While in ethical stage, is the conformity to to the universality, to the universe norms, society that binds him in that. And then at the core of at the heart of the ethical stage, which conforms oneself to the social commitments, enduring responsibility, still lies despair, the conscious despair of not becoming an authentic self. Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, so to clarify the whole point of what you've said, are you affirming that for Kierkegaard, the aesthetic stage and also the ethical stage are both inauthentic stages of life?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for Kierkegaard, there is no, at least, a space for you to be authentic during those periods.
Yes,
Uh,
but it does not mean that people cannot live in a good manner, or in a way that they have the purposiveness or the integrity or accountability, responsibility in those stages. Just because of the priority. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so for instance, I am currently in aesthetic stage. I am not living authentically at this moment.
Maybe in the individual, in the aesthetic individual aesthetic person, he or she may think that, yes, this is my life, this is my life, I live my life to the fullness, I enjoy pleasure, I enjoy satisfaction without concerning any other norms, so social commitments or other higher values, the religious values. So he may think that he is in the authentic existence of his life, the fullness of his life. But according to Kierkegaard, it does not mean so.
Okay. So only after the leap of faith, that's when I can become authentic. So the total abandonment of the self.
Yes, the
It is the requirement.
reliance upon the absolute.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll deal more on that later on. But for now, let me clarify.
Yes.
In your research, did Kierkegaard really use the term leap of faith, or was it only attributed to him to at least show the transition from the ethical stage going towards the religious stage?
Thank you, sir, for this question. The concept, the term, the leap of faith is attached to Kierkegaard. However, in his native language, in Danish, he does not mention even the term leap of faith. In his language, is springet or spring, if I'm correctly pronounced. It means that the leap or the jump, the transition in a qualitative transition to a higher mode of existence. So in his works, he never mentioned the concept leap of faith. It is later thinkers who uh, comprehend and understand and then gain attach that kind of term, a kind of leap to for him. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the reason why you were saying earlier that it's total abandonment. Now, compare the Danish term with the interpretation of the scholars. When you say leap of faith, okay, you are leaping from one stage to the other with the hope of leaving it entirely. But Kierkegaard used the term spring, okay, meaning you still bring with you your experiences from the previous stages of life. And because of those experiences, that's when you realize that there is a higher stage, and that is the religious stage. Okay? More
Yes,
than just Abraham. Do not forget that one of the heroes of Kierkegaard is also Saint Augustine. And
yeah,
in the Confession of Saint Augustine, you will see there that it's not really total abandonment. Okay?
yes,
It's a total abandonment of the sinful life without abandoning the lessons and realizations of his authentically lived existence during those periods of life. Okay? So we call for it as partial authenticity. Okay? Partial
yes,
pa lang. Why? Because it will be fulfilled once you embrace God. Okay? The conversion of the heart becomes fully converted. Okay? Or fully realized once you embrace God, and that is the religious stage for Kierkegaard. Okay?
thank you,
Uh,
sir, for your explanation.
okay. Probably this is my last point. Okay. We usually speak of we usually speak of subjective, objective. Well, of course, it's in the either or, the explanation and justification. Um, do you think the leap of faith, which is of course um, inauthentically attributed to Kierkegaard, no? Because remember, if it was only attributed by scholars to Kierkegaard, that term is inauthentic, right? So the leap of faith, let's say, is it purely subjective, or does it account for a communal effect?
If I would answer this question, sir, not totally in one side. Why? Because Kierkegaard does not does not totally promote the subjectivity and abandoning others. So in the case, I would like to give the example in the Abraham. So we can easily understand this my answer. So Abraham, he was in the stage of anxiety and difficult moment to when in the journey to Mount Moriah in sacrificing Isaac, because he knows that intellectually and ethically it is really a kind of killing and murder. So it means that he did not, okay, so since God command that, okay, I will just take my son and then sacrifice him as a command of God and reject other um, criteria such as ethical norms, the relation to the son, the responsibility of a father to the son. So he's a kind of anxiety and he believes in the absurdity. His faith, that's why he's called the knight of faith, that he overcomes, he transcends the ethical norms that bind him, that bind a responsibility of a father to a son, that he transcends it, and then the integration of the two, subjectivity and communal responsibility, the ethical norms, those things, and he transcends, making the leap of faith toward authentic, to become the knight of faith. That Yes, that's my understanding. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so in the end, it's ethical. It was ethical for Kierkegaard. What Abraham did was still ethical.
No, no, sir.
Mm.
The maybe my explanation makes you misunderstanding, but I mean that the Abraham is no longer in the ethical, because if Abraham remains in the ethical stage of ethical sphere, he could be condemned as a murderer, the one who killed the father who killed his son. But Abraham is already transcend, making the leap when he decided that to obey God, to sacrifice his son. So he's no longer in the ethical stage as a also fear. That's why Kierkegaard called the theological suspension of the ethical, that Abraham, by making the leap of faith in sacrificing Isaac, transcends the reason, the limits of reason and ethics, and become the knight of faith. Yes. Thank you, sir. Maybe my answer is not satisfying, and then the place is. He left the meeting. Maybe he lost connection. And you check the people whether you see Sir Blaze is still there. Oh, Didas. Hello, Infern. Maybe sir. Yes, sir, Ben. Yes.
Okay, yeah. Sige, while waiting for Professor Blaise Ringor. Yeah. So first, thank you for the presentation, brother. Congratulations
Thank you, sir.
for completing this project, and also to your advisor for the guidance. There are several things that I'd like to clarify, and perhaps also some questions that you need to, not really need, but maybe you may consider
Yes, thank you, sir.
when you do your revision. I'll go first with the technicalities. I'll start with some observations related to how you use your direct passages, the
Yes.
quotations from
Yes.
several sources. That I find I find that you usually do not expound or explain them. You just cite the passages, especially passages that are
Okay, sir.
kind of like lengthy passages, which to to some, perhaps to some readers who are not quite familiar with Kierkegaard, might also be interested to know further about the point. So I think most of the passages that you lifted directly from the sources were not really explained or expound. They were not expound or explained well. I think that's where you also able to establish or make an impression that you are understanding Kierkegaard. It's kind of a contribution on your part, your contribution to understand the text.
Yes.
And that's for me kind of important, no? As an undergrad writer, a student. Second, there are several. I mean, some font styles are different from some others, like the use of commas, quotations pala. The style is different from other quotation marks, no? It's just a very ano lang,
Yes.
minor detail lang.
All
yan.
right, I got it.
In terms of the abstract, I think the abstract is not an abstract for me. When you write the abstract, it's more of like you're now introducing the it's a kind of like part of the introduction, no? So what I put here, I made some suggestions how to design your abstract, how to like put essentials in your abstracts, in your abstract, no? Like you put the context, the thesis statement, or no, not the thesis statement, but your thesis, the roadmap, okay, or the kind of like yung outline, how will you argue or expose the idea, and then the significance. Because if you look at the abstract, those important details are not really there, no, except for the thesis statement. But you don't have to put that in that way, no. You can express it in a different way, where it's more like proper, more proper when you read an abstract. So consider the abstract as like a sneak peek, or
Sorry.
sneak peek, like an overview of your entire thesis or entire research. So the main essentials, the essentials must be there in your abstract. And then the use of sources, very very good. You're able to make use of some works of Kierkegaard, no, but also some secondary sources that are quite known, commentators of Kierkegaard. But I observe as well that in some parts of your paper, you also made use of some sources that I'm not sure, no? But sources that may be sort of less reliable sources. I think that would also, in a way, affect how how you would kind of establish, no, yung credibility, the credibility of your work. I suggest that you have to be more picky with the use of sources, more sources that are reliable, rather than any. Not all materials in the internet can be considered as a reliable source. So,
Yeah.
in a way, you have to know how to pick good sources. It's just like when you go to the market, you must know how to pick good food, good vegetables or whatever. So those things, for the technicalities, and then some clarificatory questions. You made mention, I think, in the RRL, that leap of faith. There is another expression aside from leap of faith. Sorry, stages of existence. No? You have stages of existence and spheres.
Yes, spheres.
Right, spheres.
Yes.
I'd like to know why you use stages rather than spheres.
Yes, thank you, sir, for this clarification. Spheres it's more the technical term in Kierkegaard's appropriate understanding. But in this study, I would like to make it understandable for the readers, especially those non-philosophical individuals, in order to have the capture stages of existence. When we talk about sphere, maybe some may jargon terms, so that yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I think what I want to see in your paper, perhaps in is it in the scope and limitation or in other parts of the paper that you have to justify why
Yes.
stages or the word stage
Yes.
is
Thank you,
used
sir.
rather than spheres, no?
Yes.
Which I think is an important conceptual clarification.
Yes.
Do you have the copy of of the manuscript?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I have.
So let's go to the statement of the problem. The question, of course, is clear to me. No, there's no problem with the main question. My issue has to do with the use of resolve,
So okay.
because that actually sort of imply uh, kind of a solution, no?
And yes.
More of like a solution to the problem of despair, or even whether despair really is a problem that needs to be overcome, or is it part of the human condition? Because if despair is part of human condition, uh, and that, or even the very fact of existence, despair is part of that condition, then will the term resolve really be the fitting, no? To to address this problem, or are you like trying to uh, kind of what, mm, reorient, no? Instead of resolve,
Yeah.
as if Kierkegaard. I'm not sure, but I'm not a expert on Kierkegaard, but then my understanding has to do with the idea that, you know, he for me he's trying to like provide the more uh, descriptive way of understanding human condition and human existence, more than like providing a solution. So that's my reservation in terms of the use of resolve. Now, when the leap of faith resolve the problem of despair and lead to authentic existence. So even if, for example, even if you already live, no, you already kind of committed to a particular sort of life, is despair something that is already I mean, will there be no despair at all when one is already committed to a particular sort of life, say a religious existence?
Thank you, sir, for the question. So here, and I think I also explain that in the chapter 2 in the after the ethical stage and its limitation. Despair is not a kind of emotional problems here in Kierkegaard. However, it is a existential condition. It means that, and to answer your question, it does not mean that when I reach making the leap of faith, when individual making the leap of faith and then reach the highest stage of existence, there's no despair there. No, there's still despair. Despair defiance there, if I pronounce it correctly. So there are three kinds of despair: unconscious despair, conscious despair, and despair defiance. So even in the religious stage, individuals still experience despair. However, despair here is not kind of despair like in the lower stages of existence. Despair here is the despairing of recognizing that the individual is encountering or confronting the absolute. So individuals are in the despairing moment of existence. That's why through that despair, individual realize that he individual one has a relationship to the absolute that he has to imply. Yes, so through that kind of explanation means that despairing, the positive despair, the despair in order to recognize that the individuals are in the relationship to the absolute, confronting the absolute.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that answer. No? If I may go to question number 2, how does Kierkegaard contrast the leap of faith with rational and ethical approaches to existence? The chapter 3, perhaps, if you is it okay to answer this right away? I mean, in just few sentences, how did he contrast leap of faith with rational ethical approaches to existence?
Thank you, sir. To answer this question in a concise manner, Kierkegaard does not impose a kind of a rejection of rational rejection of reason. However, he critiques here the kind of system, kind of philosophical system, rationalize things that using the reason in order to capture the human existence. But for Kierkegaard, no. It is through the individual integration with the absolute, personal commitment, individuality, subjectivity, that individuals has a kind of personal relationship to the absolute, setting aside the universalized, rationalized identities or components of the others thinkers or other individuals imposed on kind of society, and then make it as a universal imposed to individual. So here we can see he means the limit of reason in understanding or capturing human existence.
All right, thank you. Let's move to the next page. I think this is very important. The thesis statement, no? You said yung authentic existence is possible only through the leap of faith. Do you mean to say that it is a necessary condition? Leap of faith is a necessary condition for authentic existence,
Yes, sir.
but not sufficient?
Not totally sufficient, yes, but necessity is for the to achieve the authentic existence is necessity, but it's not sufficient. That like I explained to Sir Blaise a while ago, about the different stages of existence that has its concern or priority. So the concern and priority in each stage is different from one another. And for Kierkegaard, to achieve the true authentic existence, individual must make the leap of faith toward the highest stage of existence, which is the religious stage, wherein individuals are confronting and encountering to the absolute. Individuals are in the relation to the absolute.
To speak of the absolute, you mean
I answer. Yeah. To speak of the absolute here in Kierkegaard means the power that established him, the divine the God that in the sense of Kierkegaard, because he's a theistic existentialist, so his views is more on Christian values, God, so something like that.
but what about those who are non-religious?
Yes. Thank you, sir, for this question. For those secular individuals, those who are not subscribed into a religious system or religious beliefs, it does not mean that they cannot achieve authentic. However, in Kierkegaard sense of authenticity is more on Christian values and religious beliefs. That's why some people may misunderstand it that those who non-believers cannot achieve authenticity. But how about those living with the integrity, with the responsibility, with the meaning of life that they have a kind of pathway, the kind of purpose in their life. So they are living with the authenticity that in their understanding. Yes, in
All right.
their
Yeah. Thank you. Uh, in your scope and limitation of the study, I think you have to rework it. No, you have
yes,
to be more specific about your limitation or the delimitation of your work and the scope. No,
yes,
you have to identify and specify what works of Kierkegaard you use, no, in your study. So you have to identify them,
yes, sir.
and then some other things like, are you going to read Kierkegaard in the original or are you reading Kierkegaard in the translation? Uh,
Yes, yes,
sort of those things. Now it
yes.
must be specific
Specific. Yes,
rather than a very general description of the scope. And then in some other parts, like the RRL, I think I already mentioned the concern.
yes,
Let's go to the other the chapter 2. Sorry, conceptual framework. What I actually find lacking, I think, is the concept of despair, which for me is part of the variable of your research. No,
yes.
so I'm not sure where you think
Uh,
it will fit in the framework.
I put there the last here the and the most left inauthentic existence, despair, and the need for the leap of faith. So in that one, I include despair um, as a like the trigger point to review the necessity for the leap of faith.
All right. And then in definition of terms, you I'm not sure if it is sufficient. Maybe you have to add more other key concepts or key terms related to
Faith.
yeah.
Yes.
I think despair is not here, no?
Okay. Yes.
You made mention of the night of faith,
All right.
the absolute resignation, and so on and so forth. So I think we also have to include that as well.
All right.
All right. Okay. On page 25, you made you said here the last line on section B, no? Last line of the paragraph. He devotes much of his writings in diagnosing the three ills of human beings. Can you like clarify in what way you think they are ills?
Maybe I understand this in the maybe in the Vietnamese way of understanding the thing, but maybe it's not appropriate in expressing in English. So I think the better term for that is the existence of like kind of conditions or problems rather than ills. Ills when we talk about ills, about illness or physical illness. So I will try to take note that say because here I mentioned boredom, anxiety, and despair as the existential problems or conditions. Yes, thank you, sir, for that.
Okay, I think another thing that I'd like to suggest when you are also explaining some important ideas of Kierkegaard and in trying to also bring out your point is to give some concrete examples or
Yes,
illustrations
yes,
rather than a more abstract explanation. I would rather prefer in order to give the good impression sa reader na you understand the ideas of Kierkegaard is to really provide concrete good examples, no? In a way that's a good way of like showing that I know what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to like and you are using concrete examples for that, no? Okay, and then in some other parts, well, there are very good statements. And I think what is also good in the way you discuss things here is you're also able to identify some problems with regard to the concept.
yes, yes,
Identifying problems, like for example, in pages 29, you identified some problems regarding aesthetic stage. Is it aesthetic stage? Yeah,
yes,
aesthetic stage,
stage.
and so on and so forth. So that's for me a good thing
Thank you, sir.
to make it more like objective and balanced. No? Then on page 31, I think some other things you need to clarify as well. No? Here, um, yeah, in terms of how the inauthentic life is manifested. When I think you're trying to say here that an aesthete is someone who is someone who has no capacity to reflect, right? The way how I see it in page 31, um, which I don't think that's really is the case, no? When it comes to the aesthetic stage. So the main concept of the aesthetic is themselves and their areas of interest, and that their reflected life or their concern for others. Inauthentic life, since they have no sense of finding meaning in life. Uh, I think these kind of statements need
Revised.
to be elaborated, or
Yes.
maybe you give a very concrete example how this works, or how this idea is sort of how would you demonstrate this point, no? So that's why I asked the question here. What if seeking pleasure is their way of finding meaning, right?
Yes, like what I answered a while ago about the different stages, different perspectives of individuals in particular stages. That maybe that individuals are thinking that uh, to be authentic is to live the fullness, to live to the fullness, and then just because we have the saying that YOLO, we only live once, so try to uh, try to enjoy our life in such a way that, but it should be in Kierkegaard viewpoint, it should be conformity, whether to a ethical norms or to a religious belief, that we can attain the true authenticity in Kierkegaardian viewpoint, that not only in the lowest stage of existence, but we should reflect and re-examine our life in order to make a transition to the for the betterment.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I think the chapter, I wonder why you did not cover the last stage, the stage here, no, in this chapter. You ended with ethical.
Ethical, yes. uh, my the roadmap is that from despair of inauthentic existence in the first two stages of life, ethical, aesthetic, and ethical. And then chapter 3, the leap of faith, and chapter 4 is when making the leap of faith, bring individuals to the highest stage of existence, the religious stage, which I spent one one portion in chapter 4. I think portion B, portion B, and no, not portion B. Sorry. In discussing the religious stage as the aim of human existence, the chapter 4, portion B, religious stage and authentic existence, relation to God in page 74, and in two sub sections that I discuss how making the leap of faith brings individuals toward the religious stage, wherein individuals are manifested in upon dependence upon God and integrity and on other things in.
All right. Yeah, thank you. On chapter 3, when you said leap of faith beyond reason and ethics, what do you mean by beyond reason? Does it mean that leap of faith is not a product of reason? Is leap of faith something that is a product of uh, non-reason or unreason, or
It does not mean that because as human we are rational beings. So of course, in making any decision or making and even the leap of faith, we need the reason. Why? The reason to examine the why there is a need to make the leap of faith, why making the leap of faith become necessity. And then here the leap of faith beyond reason and ethics, it does not mean that we abolish or we set aside abandon reason and ethics, but by making the leap of faith we transcend the limits of reason and ethics, like when reason and ethics has reached its limits, and then making the leap of faith is as a kind of fathom.
when do we know that it reaches the limit of reason? What is the limit of reason?
When individuals are in the capacity of not using reason, and then cannot understand totally the absurdity, the paradox of faith. That's why in Kierkegaard viewpoint of Abraham is reaches its paradox. He is in paradox, the duty of the father to the son, the ethical norms that binds him, and he is in a treasury moment that he cannot explain this one to his wife and his servants, anyone. That's why he's
So
called a
whatever that we cannot explain is something that is considered the limit of reason.
not totally so, sir, because sometimes we have the limits in our understanding, and then but it should be in a personal appropriation. It means that when individuals are trying to understand in various ways, and he cannot make sense of what he to in order to just to fathom, just to rationalize a little bit, everything seems to be incapacity of understandable. Yes.
All right. Is there a you use the word ethics, no?
Yes.
Is this synonymous with morals or no? When you use ethical, what do you actually mean by ethical?
What I mean here in the reason and ethics here is the universal commands, universal demands that binds the individuals in a society, like in the society of Abraham in that time and in our time, the social commands, social duties, and all those things.
Okay. I think one of the essential concepts in in this chapter has to do with the idea of self.
Yes, the concept of self.
Okay. So how is self understood in the context of Kierkegaard?
Yes. In Kierkegaard viewpoint, the self, the coherent self, is when individuals are properly like it is the self is in the searching for the individuals are in the searching for the authentic selfhood. Individuals are always put in the two opposites, the finitude and finitude, possibility, necessity. So the self, even though infinite selves, individuals are under finite selves, but there's a there's a quest, there's a desire to reach the infinite, to the capacity or to encounter the infinite. That's why the concept of selfhood in Kierkegaard is when itself relates to itself, and in relating itself to itself, it relates to the power that establishes. That is the relation to the absolute.
All right. Thank you. Last question. You made mention of the Akida,
Oh, sorry, sir.
the Akida,
Akida.
the story of Abraham.
Yes, yes, yes.
Where in the Genesis can you find the story?
I think there is. I'm not. I think Genesis chapter 4 or 5. Sorry, sir.
22.
Uh, 22. Yeah, sorry.
You didn't read the chapter 22 of the Genesis?
Yeah, I read it already, but
While reading Kierkegaard, did you read that chapter? No.
I read it before, and then I read the Fear and Trembling, and then I read it again. But yeah, this comes to my experience of during when I was a child, and then very our parish priest talking about this story, and I did not believe it until when I reached second year, when I reached Fear and Trembling in Vietnamese language, and I cannot understand it all. And when I reach in English, it is more a little bit understandable of the story than the Vietnamese. So it is very beautiful biblical story that sometimes we just take advantage, and that we just think that, oh, okay, Abraham just take his son Isaac and sacrifice. Done. No, it is more than that. It is philosophically more than that. Yes.
When you read Kierkegaard, his reading of the Akida of the story of Abraham and Isaac,
Yes.
how did you find his understanding of that story?
Kierkegaard explicitly say that even though if I can understand Hegel's system, I can never understand Abraham. Even Kierkegaard himself find it very difficult to understand the tragedy moment or experiences of Abraham. How much more I and or we, as the sometimes we take advantage of that story, and then I think it is very beautiful story to deepen our faith, our understanding about the nuances of our faith and the paradox of our faith. Yes. And until now, I'm really in love with that story. Yes. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Brother Nguyen, for your responses. And so,
Sukim,
yes, sir. Ano,
Sir Blaze, are you with me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Welcome
po,
back.
Father, yes, sir. Yes, I was disconnected earlier, but I was able to take note of your answer, the last part of it.
All
So
right.
that settles actually my case when it comes to evaluating your work. So probably for the recommendations, we will just discuss it after you come back.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
Sir Kim.
yeah, and also, Sir, uh, Oliero, maybe. Let's hear from your thesis advisor.
Skim, are you there, Skim? Yeah, he said he has classes on. Yeah, so maybe. Yeah.
All right, so that ends your presentation.
Yes,
And
thank you.
Brother Nguyen. Okay, so we'll have a ilang minutes pa? Yeah, so we move to the deliberation now.
Yes.
Uh,
Can I talk to my parents that they stay here? Con đi phép xong đây dư đời một xíu nữa là họ. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello, Sir Blaze. Hello, Sir Blaze. I'm calling your messenger. Okay, okay.
all right, so
Yes, thank you.
again, we congratulate Brother Nguyen Min for the presentation and the defense of his research work. So we have decided our uh, recommendation is approved with revisions.
Yes.
So
Revision. Yeah. Minor. Yes.
this is just approved with revisions.
Yes.
No?
Thank you, sir. All right. Yes. Thank you,
Yes,
Father.
it's not either or. It's neither nor. So it's approved with revision. So
Thank you, sir.
congratulations,
Thank you,
Brother
sir.
Min.
Thank you. I would like to, yes, I would like to express my gratitude to the panel members, my thesis advisor. Maybe he's not here, but we have a recording. So thank you, Father Lito, also for guiding me during the processing of this paper. And may I speak some words in Vietnamese to my parents? Con cảm ơn bố mẹ đã ok tiếng Việt á. Con cảm ơn bố mẹ đã luôn đồng hành và cầu nguyện cho con trong hành trình viết luận văn này. Và có một điều con nhận ra rằng là cho dù con có thể hiểu được tất cả cái triết học, nhưng mà con sẽ không bao giờ hiểu được cái tình yêu của bố mẹ dành cho con. Thank you, cảm ơn bố mẹ nhiều và thank you everyone for attending this defense. Cười lên, bố mẹ cười lên nào, như đến đoàn chụp ảnh đến cười lên nào, cười lên là được chứ không cần phải. Sir Blaze, can you turn on your camera, please?
Yes, I think my camera is
Thank
on.
you, sir. Thank you, Sir Blaze.
Yeah.
Bố, yes. Anh tắt cái nhìn. Yes. Bố mẹ nhìn vô đây chụp ảnh này. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Congratulations, brother.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Trần Thị Thủy lại nhỉ? Trần Thị Thủy đứng bố sớm quá.
Trần Thị Thủy là của Lương.
Chị ơi. Trần Thị Thủy. Bây giờ là break time một xíu nữa. Trần Thị Thủy bố sớm quá, Lương chưa đến mà. Mời tần cho tôi ra bà. Ok, bây giờ break time xíu nữa quay lại. Trần Thị Thủy mỗi nói coi cái mắt cái mà. Trời đất ơi, tôi đi sơ đấy mà.
Sơ ba gì mặc đồ rồi, ở mua đồ.
Đây nói với bố cái mà. Từ Trần Thị Thủy ra đoàn đi cái đấy, tôi đi nói về gia đình cái đó. Mẹ ơi, chứ bật mic lên được cái đó. Ok rồi, bảo vệ xong rồi. Chứ ai bật mic lên được á, chứ bật mic được nè. Bật mic cái nút ngoài cùng bên phía tay trái á.
Congrats
Cố ơi,
nha.
mình đồ lại giỏi đúng không mà cố ơi. Trần Thị Thủy im lặng em mà mình chưa đến lượt của mình tí nữa.
Ok.
Cái nút ngoài cùng bên tay trái ấy. Đang nghe tự nhiên tắt. Cái nút microphone á. Nút microphone là nút ngoài cùng bên tay trái đúng không?
Rồi chưa?
Đó đúng rồi, ok rồi chưa nói đi.
Hả?
Nói đi. Anh em nhiều người đến thăm người Việt cả mà.
Chúc mừng con
nha.
Hả?
Chúc mừng ngày.
Chúc mừng đi, nói chúc mừng đi.
Chào ông bà cố nhá.
Thấy chuyện.
Đây rồi, xong rồi, ok rồi, bên đi ngủ ngon đấy.
Chào bác cô.
Chào cả nhà nha. Chúc mừng gia đình có một đứa con.
Cô với thầy Minh nha.
Chúc mừng bà cô.
Trần Thị Thủy cứ yên tâm từ từ hồi nữa nó đi để có lương.
Bác cô cầu nguyện cho thầy Minh với nhà có nhiều vào nhá.
Im lặng luôn.
Chắc là hè này mà gia đình có điều kiện thì cho thầy Minh cái bữa tiệc ta cũng được. Có 10 con với nhá.
Nhưng mà bạn ít con tố mới đủ tiền mua vé lên à? Mà cô ơi, có con dú ở trong là không mà cô ạ.
Không thì cô cho người nuôi
có con dú đấy.
đấy.
Không ra dấu làng, ok, thank you chị An. Mà approve with revision nói cho
Bây giờ thì Trần Thủy Thủy ơi, chắc là bạn không được welcome ở đây đâu, mời bạn ra ngoài ạ.
Mời bạn ra ngoài cái đã, nhau thôi.
Ô đuổi à?
Mi dùng máy để sơ cho đấm cho này.
Đâu được dùng à?
Rồi là mẹ Hằng ơi.
Còn ông kia ông hỏi nhiều quá, ông hỏi tầm 30 phút. Hỏi khiếp luôn.
Kêu ông bác cô.
Biết nói là bên là nghe.
Tôi thấy mà tôi hè có bữa nào người ta trả lời hay làm việc chuẩn mà kêu thầy mà tôi hè. mẹ Hằng nia rửa lắng được. Trần Thị ơi, Trần Thị ơi,
Ok.
bạn coi sao nói chuyện với mẹ đàng hoàng chứ, mẹ nói chuyện hay quá. Mẹ Hằng nói chuyện hay quá. Chắc là tầm 15 phút nữa để tiếp tục.
Anh đi thì vào sau.
Thì em chưa hay là sao?
Không, để hỏi.
Đấy.
Để hỏi.
Đi rồi.
Hỏi là ông sao?
15 phút.
Con đi đi. Chưa chưa.
Cảm ơn chị Hoa nhá, cảm ơn chị Hoa nhá. Cái này biết ngay là bênนี้có đi làm nhưng mà chạy ra đây.
Bắn đấy. Trên đi thi ai nữa à con?
Dạ.
Trên đi có thầy mở thi nữa à?
Dạ, có một người ở chuẩn bị
Anh chỉnh ra thì chưa?
chỉnh xong rồi, ok rồi anh Bùa.
Còn xong rồi.
Chúc anh chỉnh nha.
Ok.
Đông Việt nhá.
Ê, chị đấy.
Cô Lương. Video chứ.
Lương ơi,
Làm lấy xin ông ơi ông Ben ông Tần em 30 phút hỏi đi rồi lại mất rồi hỏi kiếp luôn.
Anh đợt
cố lên.
đợt đi thi mấy người?
Anh Chính lương cố lên.
Lương cố lên, lương ông Ben đang đời đó.
Happy to Lương. Happy birthday
Đây chú Lương nha, happy birthday nha.
Happy birthday to
Lên
you.
thì hát cho lương đi.
Hả? Happy birthday to you.
Có show mà.
Thì ông Kim không nói gì đâu đó. Phải đứng bật mic nữa.
Ôi được.
Hello sir.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, Min.
Yes, sir,
I
yes,
apologize.
yes, sir.
I just coming from my class. But I was able to
Yes.
listen to your
Thank you sir so
presentation.
much. Thank you so much for advising.
Yeah, and some of the comment of your examiners. First of all, congratulations. And yeah, we wait for their comments and we work on your revision. Okay.
Yes.
I'll be seeing you next week. Okay. Congratulations once again.
Thank you sir. Thank you very much. Thank you sir.
Có lẽ phải liên hoan ăn mơ nghe.
Nhiều ấy.
Mở tiệc to ông Việt ạ.
Lớn mùa trẻ trí như cái đó.
Bạn số lên mơn của.
Tỏ nhá. Mày Hằng.
Gửi thả cho vai con Tống Căng Xén bơi sang Philippines đừng bên đi bắt.
Các sớ bên nơi khỏe gà các sớ ấy.
Ở đây
Nha, con cảm ơn nha, con khỏe.
gói có con rú ở trong đó không cô ơi.
Thầy hỏi các thầy hỏi mà hỏi chắc sớm
Thầy
buồn
hỏi
thật chứ
sớm.
buồn bù thật chứ.
Thầy thì ăn toàn khỏe rồi, đặt sớm khác chứ.
Đây,
Có tuổi nha, khỏe không?
cảm ơn cha cùng khỏe chứ ạ.
Dạ, chúc mừng gia đình nhá. Trời ơi, thầy mình giỏi thế. Thầy nghe đèn rồi đó thưa Hằng ạ.
Ôi con nhiều sư Hằng đây.
Nhiều sư Hằng
Trời ơi.
Rất nhiều chuyện lắm á.
Có lẽ tài ăn nhiều tôm quá.
Đúng rồi sư Hằng rồi đó. Nhiều tôm thì ăn một lần đâu 2-3 lần ra đó mà. Nhớ như con được con này mén nhớ chứ mà con sư Hằng thì máy thì mình túi nhưng tự nhiên mình như túi làm con dấu đấy con nữa.
Chưa đến phần nhá, chưa đến phần nhá.
Ok thôi bố mẹ làm nghỉ ngơi nha.
Thầy nở
Chúc anh em khỏe nha.
Dạ, ok.
Cố lên lương, cố lên.
Dạ.
Chào thầy nha.
Ok bye bye.
Con cảm ơn bà cô ạ.
Chúc các thầy mạnh khỏe ấy.
răng lên.
Tắt đi cốt đi.
Rồi.
Ok bye bye.